Let's talk about change management application. So it's just another standard application provided by ServiceNow uh, that you can utilize within your organizational processes. You can alter the process flow here in change management. Uh, in order that you can bring in new features to change management application, new flows, new approval flows, etc. So you can do customization to the change management application. But if you don't want to do any customization to the application, you can go ahead and readily use it, whatever is provided by ServiceNow out of the box. Right? So change management application will uh, be available in the application navigator in form of change. And if you see, there are too many uh, modules available in this change management application. Right? There is one stand administration module as well that contains change properties, risk conditions, blackout schedules, etc. Right? And then standard change, you have standard change catalog, my proposals, open proposals, all templates. To start with, you can look into all changes assigned to me, or maybe you can you can open up the create new module here within the change application. When you do create new module, you will be presented with an interceptor. Interceptor contains three links here, right? One link is normal change request, another one is standard change request, and third one is emergency change request. And a small definition of all of these change types are here. Normal would be changes without predefined plans that require approval and CAB authorization. CAB is Change Accreditation Board, right? Um, See, every change that you request within the organization has a change flow. It is not like, uh, somebody requested a change and it was worked.
Hello,
Yes, Sam.
Rahul. I think the CAB is Change Advisory Board.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, change advisory board. Change advisory board. Yeah, that's right. Sorry about that. Now, every change that is requested, so the change request can be requested by users of the application, right? It can be requested by the business folks. It can be, it can be advised by some internal team members, the stakeholders of the project or application, right? Or any source of any source who is actually interested with the application or the asset that we are working with right now. Now, to when a change is requested, the change gets documented somewhere in the change management tool, something like this, right? The change management tool. But even before you log the change request here, you have to keep a copy of what is there in the change request. So if it is a request for change, what does it demand to have, as an implementation, right? So customers or consumers or users of the application or asset will request the change, and that change will be documented in some tool. Let's assume that that's a RFC tool, which is request for change tool, where all of the requests by different sources, different actors of the system will be stored with a unique change number so that you can track the changes, and then each of the change that is requested is completed as desired, right? Now, once you have that change within your request for change system or tool, uh, it's not just one person's decision to get that approved and start the people working technical team working on that, right? You have to have a the organizations have this CAB meeting on a defined frequency. Mostly it's a weekly meeting that happens within the organization, change advisory board contains a group of people who will be sitting there and will discuss what change should be worked now, and they will decide a time frame, high level planning of what is going to be the change. What are the changes that will be worked in particular time frame in the next cycle, in the next release, etc. These kind of discussions happen there. Uh, People from both technical team and business team will be there, and they'll be discussing if this change, which was requested by somebody from the team or a stakeholder, is actually required at this point of time. Should we actually work on that feature or not? So stuff like that, right? It's a proper discussion on deciding whether a change is worth working is done when change advisory board is set up to discuss all the change requests generated by different people within the organization, right? So that's change advisory board. So changes without predefined plans that require approval and CAB authorization, right? The thing that we just talked about is CAB authorization. So unless CAB authorizes any change, that change may not be worked by your technical team, right? Another type of change is standard change. So select from available pre-approved change templates. These changes do not require approval. Uh, these changes do not require approval. The reason could be if you are into your office, you go to your workplace and then um, you try to log in on your system and your password doesn't work, right? In such cases, you will not require your manager to approve your changes or your CAB change advisory board to approve the change request to reset the password, right? That will not be desired, that will not be required at all, right? So for that reason, you will have a pre-approved change template, a list of change requests are there, and again, this may differ. My organization may have standard change request templates saved within the change application. However, your organization could have 10 processes, 10 change, 10 change pre-approved change templates within your organization, right? So that's not a, constant value. That's a variable value that you have. You may decide how many change types or templates you have within your change management application that are labeled as a standard change request. So standard change requests do not require any approval. The third one is emergency change request, which is unplanned changes necessary to restore service. These changes require CAB authorization only, right? There could be unplanned changes. Let's assume that you are working on at your workplace in your office and the power goes down, right? So if the power goes down and there is fault in some circuit, electrical circuit, right, that has to be fixed. So in that case, people from administration group will not wait for approvals to get that fixed, right? If that has to be fixed because this is impacting more users, so that has to be fixed, right? Although a change request for this event will be required, but that's not mandatory. That's not a precondition to fix that issue, right? So people start working on that and change request. The emergency change request could later be, could later be also created within the change management application and approved by CAB authorized, CAB team, CAB group, stuff like that, right? So there are different types of change, different scenarios where you will have, different change request requirement. Another example of emergency change request could be, let's suppose that you work in data center where you are managing 1,000 servers, right? And there was a storm hit in the city and the power went off, or let's assume that the network connections that you had went off, right? So all of the servers or hardware that you have within the data center will be cut off from the outside world, right? So that's an emergency change. Right? So to fix that, uh, you will have to create an emergency change request. But again, that's not mandatory precondition that you should be fulfilling at first before beginning to fulfill or resolve the issue that you see there, right? You may go ahead and fix the issue and then you create a change request of emergency type just to make sure that whatever event happened has been documented somewhere in the change management application and has been completed according to the process flow that is there in the organization, right? So that's altogether theoretically about change request, right? Now when will you when will you have conditions, when will you have situation where you have to create a change request? So to answer that question, I may take you to the category feed here where you can see that there are different categories starting with hardware, software, business service, system software, application software, network, telecom, documentation, and other, right? So if you have to change any asset, any IT asset of these kinds, these categories, right? You will have to create a change request using the change management application in ServiceNow, and then keep a record of that. Right? Now, when you select categories, right? When you select categories, you know there are different categories like uh, uh, hardware, software, business services, system software. You have to identify according to the category selected. You have to identify the configuration item that is going to be affected. For example, you have selected the system software. Now when you hit this configuration item, it will take you to a list of all assets available within the configuration item database, right? CI database or CI table. So within this CI table right now I have 3,279 records, right? Some of these are servers, some of these are laptops, hardware, desktop, network drives, softwares, frameworks, etc. So everything is stored here in configuration item database, and the table for this configuration item database is cmdb underscore ci, right? The other table that will be related to the change request application is change underscore request. Other tables will be change underscore task, and task table is the parent table of change request, so you will have task also. Then the change request will have association to incidents and problems. You will see how these things are associated. Let's quickly go into these tables and see some details about the table. If we go to change underscore request and do dot list, you will see this list of records containing all the change requests within the system. Right now, within my instance, I have 40 change requests that I can see here, right? Some of these change requests are closed. Some of these change requests have inappropriate state values, so we can ignore that. To ignore that, I'll right click here and do filter out, so that change request will not be displayed now. If you are interested in seeing just the closed change request, right click here and do show matching. When you do that, it will show you all the matching records. So there are 11 records which have state equals closed within my chain management application within my instance, right? So these are the fields. You can again pick some from the available field list, and then you can move that into the selected field list, and your personalized list for the change request will be updated to contain all those columns, and you will see the appropriate values for each of the requests that you create. Another table that we're talking about is change underscore task. If we go to change underscore task dot list, it will bring out the change task with a appropriate change task number, right? And then you can hit this one to open and see the record details. and you'll find out what change request is associated to. See, there's a relationship. This was the data to change CH, these many times of zeros and then 1. A change request 1 is associated to change task 1, right? So within the database, you will have this relationship established somehow. If you go to tables and columns, and if you go to the schema map, let's go to change change request, and then so change request to the primary table of change management application, because whatever record that you create within the change management application gets stored into the change request table, change underscore request table. So every change request that you make will go in the change request table, and as and when task is created, the task will be created into the task table, right? If it has to select some configuration items, it will be selected from the configuration item table. If it has to take assignment groups or assignments from different groups within the organization, it will refer to the assignment tables, etc. So different relationships within the table. So for that, we have this schema map that will show to us what is the relationship of change request table to different other tables within the system, right? So you can untick these checkboxes to understand the relationship. See, right now I am doing just show reference table. So it will show the list of tables that change request refers whenever the change request is created within the system. You may see that it starts with workflow activity, then you have location, company, business service, user, execution plan, task, configuration item, group, standard change and conversion, execution plan, task, etc. Right? So change request application and change request table is somehow interrelated to all of these tables. So when you are on the change form here and you start filling in the form and saving the record, getting information from on different areas of the application, you are somehow referencing to many of these tables here on the screen, right? For example, how do you get this requested by input field populated? Right? Again, this is a lookup field and this is a reference field, and this reference field is making a reference call to the user's tables within the system, right? It is referencing the user table. We have this user table here. On the schema map, you can see that change request is associated to user table, right? So this lookup field is filled up by records from the user table, right? You can alter it. You can right click on it and you can do configure dictionary and then you can alter it, right? Each of these fields that you see here is customizable, right? That's why I said you can use this change request application, change management application as a template application or a process application as it is, or you can customize this application according to your business needs, right? And then uh, you can use the same table structure which is maintained by ServiceNow for this change management application, or you can create your own tables as well as and when required. Other item is category. I'm not sure if category is coming from a table. It's just a list of choices that you have, right? It's a choiceless item, and it's storing these values somewhere in the database, right? And that's getting. So if you have to have more choice fields for category here, right click here and get more items, right? Hardware, software, business service, application, network you have done. Let's take the ServiceNow deployment as well. When you take the ServiceNow deployment and save it, within the category drop down, you will see the ServiceNow deployment as well. Right? So the idea is that if you want to customize this, you can customize this. These fields on the change request form. Every form, every field can be customized. Okay. Now look at the configuration item. uh, field here. If you do right click, the label reads as CMDB underscore CI. If you do configure dictionary, and if you go within this uh, dictionary entry of configuration item, you will see that the parent table is task table and the column label is configuration item, right? And then column name is CMDB underscore CI. And if you go down here, it will have more details, more information about these are the labels. Hang on a second. This refers to the table CMDB underscore CI that contains all of the information about the change assets. So I was trying to get out that information from the change request. So the ultimate table is configuration items. This configuration items table where you have 3,279 records of the assets within the system. So that's what we are referring to right now. This configuration item, if you do configure dictionary, it takes us to the it takes it to you here on this screen, and there's no reference to CMDB CI table here.
I saw related link of show the table
Where?
down there. Down, that
Yeah.
stop, there.
That's the task table, Sam. That's a reference to the task
Oh,
table. All of the fields task
oh,
table here. So this CMDBCI is here, but okay, we'll see. But ultimately, the reference to this C configuration item field is CMDBCI table, right? See, if you hit this, you can get the 3,279 records and the configuration items table. I'll find out. I'll find out how this configuration item is set up here. Let's not spend too much time on this first one. Okay. Uh, the next field we have is priority. So according to the change request that you're going to create, you decide the priority of the change request, right? So let's identify the actors within this change application. The actors could be requester, approver, technical team. This technical team could be your L1 support team as well. Somehow this will be associated, and your dev team. This could be L1, L2 support team. Let's put left L3 as well, which is your dev team in fact. So requester, approver, technical team, your business folks. Within the approver, you will have, the business team can come within your approver list. Your manager could be approver. Cab could be your approver, or any other. group or people having special rights, right? These are actors within your change management application. Requester is the person who requests this change request. The requested by field will show the name of the requester, right? If we go into change request and do a filter, I'll do requested by is not system administrator and try to see if we have some records where the requested by is not administrator. And we see here that there are 13 records where there is which have been created by somebody else, not the administrator. So this change request 12 was requested by Beth Hangley, right? And this Beth Hangley person has requested this change request which is of other category, and the configuration item that is associated to this change request is this one, Java Application Server FLX. Priority was decided by Beth as 4, which is low, risk as moderate, impact as 3, which is low. The state of this change request is still new, right? This is something we'll come back, conflict status, we'll come back to it. And there is no other specific information here, only the short description is filled. None of other information are filled here. The schedule is defined, so that's some information available here. And there are two conflicts that you can see here. Two conflicts we can see here is change 12. Two conflicts from here, change 12. Conflicts we'll be talking about. And then you have nodes. So to this change request, Felix.bait put a note here that you can see, right? So this person Felix.bait would be one of the actors within the change management application, one of the stakeholders. See, the actors that we decided, Felix will be one of these persons. So he has access to this change request record and can put some comments, notes, etc. Now you have this tab of closer information. So whenever the change request is completed, people completed working on this change request. So you will close this change the state of the change request to closed and save it. And when you close this change request, you have to put some closer information as well. So you have to select from the close code available here and then some closer note and close it, right? Now, to each activity that you are doing, now for example, you are submitting the change request or requested approval, or your change request was approved or rejected, or your change request was closed completed, you will be sending email notification out to the you know uh, specified person, the person who qualifies to receive that email, right? For example, if you create a new change request, you will get a copy of the change request over your email. You'll the approver or the first level approver of the change request will also get a copy of the email saying that this request was created and you have to approve it. Go follow the approval cycle, approve or deny it or reject it, and then you know, you will you will complete one of the steps in the change approval process. So that's pretty much about change request from the change request table and change task table and CMDB CI table. Task table we are already aware where let's go into task table for a second. all the tasks. So task table acts as a parent table for change request table. So to each change request that we have here, we must have some associated task as well. See change task. So to this change request, change 001, you have 6 tasks created already, right? Now, in order that you could close this change request, you have to close this task first. These change requests are in open state. Let's try to close this. See, I was trying to close this. The stage is still new. It hasn't closed, right? Because you will have to complete these tasks before you can close the change request, right? So who completes these tasks? These tasks, which are created for against any change request, will not be assigned, may not be assigned just to a single person, right? Like you can see here, the change task 1 has been assigned to Don Goodlife. Number 2 is David Liu. Number 3 is Bo Ruggery. Number 4 is Don Goodlife again, and the rest of the 2 tasks are created for Bo, right? So to this change task 1, if you impersonate as Don Goodlife, now you go here, you come to visual task organizer, so you will have this where do we see our open task? Right, so this one, these are the requests. Right, task. These are the tasks, right? So this person will start picking up the task here. This person will take this task, right? Whatever task it is. So this task is about order from vendor or move from in stock inventory. So I'll pick my name here because this task is assigned to me. I'll pick my name here. I'll pick the configuration item, anything, any sample configuration item. Let's take this in our .NET SDK, and then put some work notes. Something like this. Then you update it, right? So After some time, you may come back and see that this task has been completed, so you can go ahead and close this task, right? So when you close that task disappears from the list of tasks available here, particular task. You may now go to System Administrators view, go to the list of change requests, go here, scroll down. Well, this should have been closed, right? This is the one I closed. No, I think I closed another one. This is not, this is backup database, and that was to order something. So let's go back and complete this. Dawn Good Life task. Okay, these are just tasks. We are looking into change tasks. So we may do one more thing. I can go ahead and look onto the number of change requests. So I'll try to find out if we have. Let's go back here and see change. Just trying to understand the relationship here. Wanted to open this change task item and close this one by John Goodlife. Let's go to change underscore task dot list. Let's open up this one, put some description. Now close this task. I close that change task here uh, using John Goodlife's account. Now let's go back to System Administrators view. Right click and reload form. Scroll down. Now since that change task has been completed by Don Goodlife, it will be marked as closed complete, right? If we go ahead and keep closing all of the change tasks that we have, starting from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, see, even if that has been closed, the state of the change request has not changed. It is still new, right? It's new. Let's go back and close each of these change tasks here. This, C, let's close this. 4, let's close this. 5, close task. 6, close task. Right? So we just closed 6 tasks here. Let's go back and reload. It will show that all of the change tasks that were there has been closed completed, right? If you go to show workflow related link, it will show you the state of the change task that you are into right now, right? So this is a workflow for this change request where it will show that what states for that change request has been actually completed, right? And right now it is into the change moves to assess stage. It shows that, right? Depending upon your actions here, the workflow will change and it will go to the next stages, etc. Right? Now that we have actually completed all the tasks, we can go ahead, mark this successful, and then, in fact, this was not approved by approver at first. So let's put some assignment group. Let's do some approval request. So this approval request will go. It is now into the SS state, the state that we just saw. If we go to show workflow, so it completed this state, change moves to SS. It went to approval action requested, right? By default, it was approved, I believe. Once it was approved, it went to technical approvals. So this kind of change request, it is going out to the technical approvals. And now, within the technical approvals, there will be a group of people who will be approving this. So if I go back here, access, change is waiting for approval. How do you find approvers of it? See, within the approver tabs, you will have the all the approvers who need to approve this. Now, like we did for other marketing application workflow item, there when we identified approvers for the marketing event request, we chose if anyone could approve or all of the persons within the group has to approve it, right? So it totally depends how your workflow has been set up. If this workflow has been set up to include if anyone approves it, it will be deemed approved. You will be doing just one approval and that will be considered approved, right? Now since I am administrator, I can go ahead and approve it. So I'll go to my approvals here within service desk and try to find out which one of these is the change request that I need to approve. Let's put updated. So updated is it's any one of these change requests I'll have to look into. This is the equipment request. This doesn't look like that one. This is task. This is again equipment request. Or alternatively, I can, since I am an administrator, I can go ahead and approve from there itself. I am in the change request window, approvers. I can double click this one, mark it approved, done. Let's go back to workflow and see if it has a, any person approves or all of them has to approve. See, with just single approval, we see that the approval group step has been completed. It goes to if block here and checks if the change is on hold, right? And the answer to the question is no, the change is not on hold. So it goes to move to authorized stage, right? Where you will have this move to authorize stays here, and so whatever activity this change request has to perform here and move to authorize, it will perform that. Now it went to cab approval. The next set of approval is cab approval, right? The state of this change request will now change. If I reload it, it's into authorized now, right? Now we'll go into here on the approvers list, and using one of the uh, change approvers, because it has gone to the cab group now, right? So we'll find out who is there in the cab group and we'll approve it from the user's account that contains cab group access. So for that, I'll go to group table. Within group, I'll find out cab approval group, and within the cab group approval group, I have these group members: Luke Wilson, Howard Johnson, Christy Mussel, Bernard Leboy, etc. So I'll use Luke Wilson's account to approve this. I'll go ahead, mark this approved, change this to approved, and approve it. Right? When I approve it, I go back, open the change request. See, the state of the change request now changes to scheduled. Right? If we reload this form, it executed some more steps. See, cab approval done. It went to this if block here. Answer to this if question is no. Check if change is on hold. No, the change is not on hold. So it goes back here to the next step, and the next step would be approval action, where approval is done. So it moves to scheduled, and after it moves to scheduled, it will wait for change. It will wait for implementation step. Right. So if you go back here, it is scheduled, and it will wait for implementation, where all the change tasks, etc., has to be completed. Right. Once completed, it will be marked as completed, and then it will move to the next step. Right. And then there are two conditions according to the branch here. It calls up a normal change request workflow, and again it waits for change review. See, the typical process that we are following here is you create a change request that goes for approval to approvers, right? Approvers may decide to approve this. If they decide to approve this, it goes to another set of approvers or a group of approvers like CAB in this case. If any person from that CAB group approves this, this again goes to the next stage where the change is scheduled, which is automatic. It looks like that is a automatic scheduled change that we have here, right? So that gets worked on. So all the tasks that was created will be worked by the people who have been assigned those tasks. Once they complete that task, that that change that has been worked goes to the review cycle where people from different groups, maybe your testing team, will review the changes that you have done, right? And after review, they'll move the state of the change to the next level. That after review, that goes to the next level, and then the implementation is complete, and then you move that change request into the production environment and close all the change tasks, and hence the state of the change will be completed, right? So this will be the typical flow for your change request. See, this workflow right now that we have, the change a normal change request workflow is calling another workflow within the change request, right? So it is calling change request normal workflow again. So this is a nesting of workflow that you see here. Now this workflow that we just traversed, this is a case where all of the approvals were provided, right? All of the approvers within the system approved the change request. Now, at any point during this workflow, any of the approvers might have rejected the change request, right? So, if the change request was rejected by any of the approvers, the workflow will adjust its course and make decisions on its own and move to the no conditions wherever you have it, right? Approval or rejected. right? So that way the approval workflow works. Now we saw this change task list, approvers list, impacted services. Uh, See, it is also important to identify with the change that you are doing, is there any other business service or configuration item that is going to be impacted? If that is, then you have to study that requirement as well and see what impact that change requirement, change request is going to have on other systems, and you have to factor in those things as well within your change plan, right? Affected CI, right now the affected CI or configuration item is Salesforce automation. But at a later point as well, you can, you know, unless it is not scheduled or, it is not into the advanced level stages of the approval, I think unless you are into the assess the state, you can go ahead and add more affected CI, right? Any change request can have more than one affected CI. For example, if I go ahead into the normal change request, I'm sorry, uh, I picked one configuration item here, let's say anything. Yeah. So this is the configuration item that I'm picking, some nodes, and I go and submit this. What is that? Change request. We create a new change request, normal type, any ID, hardware. Change request number will be 32. Submitted. Go ahead and search on the basis of change request. So right now I have one change configuration item here, but I can go ahead and add more configuration items. See, I can go ahead and add more configuration items that I think will be associated to this change request, right? If I do add selected, so you may now see that there are more than one configuration items that I want this change request to be created for, right? I can go ahead and update it, right? So, so you have the affected CI tab where you have more than one affected configuration items. You have impacted services where you can go ahead and add business services or configuration items which might be affected because of these changes that you are going to do. Let's say you are going to affect BlackBerry and email service, so you may have the BlackBerry and email services as impacted services here. Approvers will be identified the uh, according to your roles and the assignment groups and assigned to values that you associate here within the change request, etc. So approvers will be, the moment you request the approvers for this change request will be identified. Let's do that. Let's request for approval. When I do request for approval, it is asking for assignment group, right? Right now I haven't provided any assignment group, so I may go into and I pick hardware assignment group. So when I have hardware assignment group here, the system will automatically decide for this hardware type of request where we have picked assignment group as hardware, who will be the approver for the change request. Now, when I request this approval, automatically it will direct the approval request to people who are within the hardware group, and anyone from this group can go ahead and approve the change request or reject the change request. Okay? And here in the backend, in the email, you can see that you have these emails coming in where this is for change request one, where you have this approval request, right? And within this email, you have these links created here, right? Click here to approve and click here to reject. When you hit this, click here to approve and reject, and you send this. right? So this is an incoming email to your ServiceNow instance, and your instance should be configured for incoming emails. If you have incoming emails configured within your instance, so this email that we just sent out will be good enough as a decision on approval, right? So with that email, the system will understand that the change request one has been approved by its approver, right? So for that, you have to configure your incoming emails, inbound emails within your system, and your system will accept the decisions made by approver. So that's another type of integration that we have. So event-based email integration, uh, where we go ahead and do inbound actions to those emails. I think we talked about inbound actions of email. So that's the same thing that we are talking about right now. Now, see, I have other approval requests that has come in, like for change 32 that we just created. You have this information in this email, and this is the request for approval. Another email that comes out to me is that this has been assigned to the hardware group, and I might be the part of hardware group, so I'm getting this email saying that this change request has been assigned to your group, and you have to work on this, right? So, so you have a list of approvers. Since this has not been approved right now, no change task has been created. Otherwise, automated change task will be created here. If there are no automated change task provisioned within the system, then people with adequate right who are handling the change request can go ahead and create new change tasks, right? For example, if this workflow that we have for this normal change type is not having any automatic change task creation, I can go ahead and create a new change task, right? But ideally, we should be doing that when the change has been approved by the approvers, right? Since this has not been approved by approvers, you will see this change is waiting for approval label here or information here just below the state field. Okay, so that's for change task. Problems will list out any problem report that has been associated to this change request, right? If any problem request has been associated to a change request, that will appear there. I'm sorry. See, for this change request one, I can see that there is one problem that has been associated, right? And it says can't access SFA software, and state is known error, right? So when you are releasing a software, when you are releasing a product, and you know that there are some known errors within that product, you will create a problem record to that error or issue, associate that to the change request and save it so that people who are keeping track of the change request have that information. Incidents pending change will list out those incidents that are related to this change request and are, you know, waiting on the action performed for this change request. So you will have that list of all those incidents here, right? And then incidents caused by change will list out all of those incidents that were caused as a result of this change request that you created. It may happen that when you fulfill this change request, this is completed, but as soon as you move this change request within the production environment, something else breaks, right? That stops functioning correctly, right? If that happens, then the incident that will be created must be associated with this change request so that appropriate relationship has been established between the incident and change, and people know that the problem or the incident that users are facing is because of the change that was created or completed in change number 32. So this is the root cause of the issue or problem or incident that we are just fixing, right? So this contains the relationship information of that as well, right? Apart from that, you may see this calculate risk button, which is very important to have within your change applications scope. And that's because when as a creator of the change request, a requester of a change request, you request a change request, you put your view on the priority risk and impact of the change request that you are submitting, right? You may think that since this is a hardware request on any IBM server, which is a development server, for example, the priority for this change request should be low, risk should be moderate, and impact should be low. So this is something that you provided there, right? But when it goes to your manager or people who approves it, you will also see some, something like calculate risk button here. When we hit this calculate risk, it will automatically find out some of the values and find out the risk level associated to this, and then adjust the risk level that you have here. For example, see in this case, initially it was a moderate risk change request that the requester chose here. But when we do this calculate risk, depending upon some questionnaire or some automatic calculation, it changed the value of the risk from moderate to low, right? So that's something that we should be looking into. This is calculate risk is a UI action created within the system. And that UI action runs some script and finds out the value of the risk associated to that change request, right? So the deciding factors will be the category that you have chosen, the configuration item that you have chosen, the time frame when you have chosen the change request to be implemented, etc. Right? So that brings out the level of risk involved in implementing that change request, right? Uh, I talked about time frame. Why is time frame important? Time frame is important because within organizations, an organization may not like to implement changes on your servers or your hardware or your production system during a specific time frame. For example, if you are a banking organization and it's your assessment year end, right, where you are getting all your accounts in order, you will not like to alter your production systems at all, right? So any change that you are planning to do during the year-end cycle of your banking operations will have to go through special approvals, and the special approvals can go, you know, can go to up to your CTOs or CEOs as well, right? Because that requires special attention from your higher management, right? Because there is a process within the organization that none of your production systems will be touched when we are into year-end cycle, year-end cycle, which could be spanning for 30 days or something like that, right? So that time period where you do not do any change, where you usually do not do any change within your production systems is known as blackout period, right? And blackout period will be maintained within your calendar of the change request. So you maintain a calendar as well. So you identify blackout schedules as well, right? So blackout schedules you create here using the administration section. You have the blackout schedules, and you see that when you create that blackout schedules, you mention some of the information here, right? It applies to CMDB CI table, and you identify some of the blackout schedules, and you create some calendar, and you identify the start date of the blackout and the end date of the blackout, right? So typically the change regulators or the people who manage the change management application at the start of the year, they will create this maintenance schedule for all of the IT assets that they have. They will also identify the change calendar and identify the blackout schedules for your IT systems within the organization for throughout the year, right? So information like this will be created at the start of the year. You will update the calendars and update that in the system so that the system takes care of all of the blackout schedules and time frames whenever change request is created, stuff like that, right? So there is a lot to learn within the change management application. Uh, we'll talk about the change management application in greater detail tomorrow as well, and we'll see some more aspects of change management application. I'll request you